Hey everybody, it is Wintermute, and obviously I am not in my usual place, the think tank. This is Acropolis Games in Adrian, Michigan, and this is Tim, the proprietor of Acropolis Games. Now, Tim is also a Axis and Allies player, and he wants more and more to get into global war. And
Love
so
global war.
I spent a lot of time kind of talking about that and trying to make it happen, but our schedules don't line up. But when we were discussing just general stuff a couple months ago now,
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
something came up which just kind of threw me for a loop. I was talking about DUNE, and how I was looking forward to the new movie coming out, which is just out today. And Tim told me that he has never seen either of the previous movies
Nope.
or read any of the books.
Nope.
And I was just dumbfounded. Absolutely dumbfounded. I mean, I get maybe not reading the books or vice versa, maybe not seeing the movies, but you've read the books. But here's the thing: Tim's only a few years younger than me, and he's a nerd too. He owns a game store. I mean, how have you not heard or seen? Have you not read or seen any of the Dune stuff?
Well, I am familiar with Dune.
Yeah, but so if but
That's the extent.
if I say he who controls the spice controls the universe, what does that mean to you?
Would mean nothing to me.
Exactly. That's weird to me. Very weird. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of sit down. We're going to go see the new Dune movie later on tonight. You'll probably see this on a couple of days after this, but we're going to be going to see it tonight. And I wanted to kind of establish, here's somebody that's never seen this one of the probably the most influential piece of science fiction ever. I mean, even more so than a lot of the stuff Arthur C. Clarke has done. Dune, and I mean, Warhammer's 40K is your biggest seller, and I mean that's clearly there's so much Dune influence there.
Right. I'm very interested to see that.
And maybe not so much in this movie, but when you look at the expanded universe, a lot of it will click. A lot of it will click. But what are you expecting out of this movie? Let me ask you that.
Okay, so my first experience, even understanding what Dune was, it was a Dune ad for a video game on the back of my regular 2-disc when I was a kid, right? So this is, I was young,
Yeah.
maybe 2000, 2001, somewhere in that range. So we're talking 20 years ago, and I know there's some kind of sandworms. I don't know anything about, because I know on that there's like a big worm coming out of the dune, the sand dune. So that was all I knew about it for, I'll say 20 years, right? And then maybe I'd heard some stuff here and there. And then recently, like, I've watched some of the trailers before. This is before we even talked, and I was like, okay, there's a lot of weird stuff, and by weird I mean just like I'm totally unfamiliar, right? So I have no idea what I assume there's going to be a lot of political stakes. I kind of envision like a cross between Game of Thrones and Star Wars. I'm assuming factions are going to be part of it. I assume there's going to be some kind of political intrigue, and then there's this existential threat of these worms somehow, some way, and I don't really know, but everything I've heard, I'm excited about. I haven't been this excited for a movie in a while. So
yeah, no, I just told one of my coworkers today. I'm like, wow, I haven't actually been looking forward to going to see a movie. It's
right.
Like, yeah, they come and go, but ever since what was it, the original? I remember going to the theater and watching the Lost in Space movie, the actual movie,
right,
and walking away from that going, I don't know if I can ever get excited again. I mean, it was such a disappointment. Such a disappointment. I mean, that was the movie that changed that.
Right.
I'm not joking. That was the movie that changed that for me, where I wouldn't let myself get excited for movies anymore. But yeah. But this one, yes, and I'm happy to see that it's I've avoided a lot of the reviews myself, but I do know that it's been getting a lot of good reviews, positive reviews. A lot of the people that have been giving it bad reviews or you can tell they didn't get it.
Right.
Because I've heard other YouTubers that I watch on a regular basis kind of mention stuff about it. And yeah, that makes sense. And some of the blurbs that pop up on a website
I
chance
expect to
across.
be confused. I will say that. I'll expect to not fully follow. I expect a double watcher.
You know what? That's Dune. The book is probably a double reader.
Yeah.
And I've had people tell me that, you know what, I remember reading Dune when I was younger. I went back 10, 20 years later, read it again, and appreciated it on a whole new level.
Right. And I'm totally okay with that. I'm a big fan of Game of Thrones, and I've enjoyed rereading that and getting more nuance every time you read.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. That makes sense.
I'm hoping, I guess my ultimate hope and dream here is that this is going to expand into, like, this will be my next kind of big thing. You know, that I'll be able to be, like, really...
Okay, now,
latch onto.
you do know that this is part one, right?
That yeah.
Okay.
I guess I know that there's a wider... I didn't know that they're going to... I don't know
Well,
if
they're
doing
taking the
movies.
book, the original book that this is based on, and they've chopped it into 2 parts. Kind of like they did with Deathly Hallows.
Well, how many books are there?
Well, originally, I
books
think
are
when
done?
Frank Herbert passed away, and don't quote me on it, I believe there were 6 complete books.
Okay.
And then his son, with, I believe, Richard Anderson was the other author's name. They co-wrote, because his son was involved in the later books.
Right.
And his son knew what his dad's intent was and where he was going to take the story. And
But the
he had all
series
his
is
notes.
complete, right?
The main plot line is complete.
Okay.
Now what they did is his son wrote the next 2 books, which would have finished the main storyline.
Right.
And then they went back and they wrote a prequel series about I don't want to give a prequel series like way back.
Sure.
And then another prequel series like right before Dune would have taken place, and a trilogy of each. And I really enjoyed those. I remember reading them, and it fleshed out a lot of the universe, it helped explain why certain things are set up the way they are now when you go into this movie.
Okay.
You know, and I don't want to give too much away. We can talk. I can mention the specifics later because we're going to come back because we're going to get an after viewing because we're going later to a later showing. We both have stuff to do tomorrow morning. So, but tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to come back here and we're going to talk about what you thought, how what like what worked for you, what didn't, how you feel. Now, and I'm excited, but at the same time, maybe I can walk away going, wow, this sucked.
I
don't see that happening. I don't see that happening.
I hope that's not the case. I really am excited to because if I'm into it, I'll read the books. I'll go all through and I'll get into it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that's what it is.
I think there's a lot of people who are hoping that this kicks off a well-handled franchise.
Right.
Not, we don't want to get to, movies 7 and 8 and have it do a Game of Thrones season 7 and 8 and, kind of a thing. And actually kind of, be...
I think it helps having the end in sight, right? So the movie runners or whatever, they can't, there's only so many liberties they can take because there's already a predetermined endpoint.
Yes.
Right, so that should help.
Yeah.
I would hope.
And it's weird because I've watched the original Dune movies since finishing the series, and now that I know how it ends, I kind of watch some of that stuff and go, "Wow, they were way off the mark."
Right.
they had no idea what was going on. Those characters were clueless.
Well, after I watch this and then probably get into the first book, I will probably go back and watch those older. How old are those movies?
The David Lynch one from the early '80s. That one's kind of controversial.
Okay.
Because it's now aesthetically, I think I love the aesthetics of it.
Okay.
It is to me, it's a beautiful movie. It's got a very dark gothic theme to it. It's a very visually, it's a very stunning movie. But they took a lot of liberties with changing some of the stuff in the plot.
Okay. Yeah.
And that kind of made a lot of people go, I don't know. And when you're a kid, when I watched it when I was a kid, I didn't care. It was awesome.
Right.
Having grown up and read the book and look back at it and go, oh, okay, I get why some people are upset with it.
Right.
I'm not as upset by it because I still have fond memories
You
of
have
watching
that nostalgia
movie,
for it,
and you got to watch the 4-hour version.
Okay. Like the
you watch the
cut
real
or whatever.
version, man,
Okay.
not the
Now,
2-hour director's
These
cut.
original movies, were they the entire story encompassed, or were they just the first book?
Just the first book. Now, this one was. Then the Sci-Fi Channel, back when it was still the Sci-Fi Channel and not the whatever the hell it is now channel, did a Dune miniseries for the first book, and they did a good job with it. You can see that there are some criticisms. Some of the costuming is a little weird. The special effects aren't up to par, but it's actually pretty good.
Right.
They really cared. And then they did a sequel miniseries for Children of Dune, which is a follow-up book, which I think if I remember correctly, they put 2 books together to kind of make that one work, which is probably a good idea. That one was really good too.
Yeah.
It actually had James McAvoy was
Oh,
the
really?
lead in it. Yeah.
Okay.
This was back when his career was just
Getting off
starting
the
to
ground.
take off, and he wasn't a household name. So he plays the lead, and the sci-fi version Children of Dune is pretty good. Now I haven't watched it in a while. I may think differently now.
Right.
But I remember, and I know a lot of other people have said the same thing. It's like, I remember watching it. That was surprisingly good for the
Right.
Sci-Fi Channel, because it's the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yeah. Yep.
We all know what that means. I don't have to
get
say
that.
it. Yeah.
I get that.
So,
I'm
yeah.
excited. I'm excited for
Yeah.
tonight, and I think that it's the beginning of something really cool.
I hope so too. Because everyone that's watched it and who's been watching it, have said the director Denis Villeneuve, I don't know how to pronounce his last name very well, is just, he knows the source material.
Right, and I think that's
He
incredibly
cares about the source material.
That's
isn't
even more
just
important.
Yeah, he
Caring
cares
about it.
about it. He knows it. He loves it. He wants to do this movie.
Right.
This isn't just it's not like the studio just put it out there and said, "Hey, let's see what big name director
Right.
we can get to do this."
So the
he
second
wanted
movie
to
is.
do it.
Have they filmed it already, or?
I don't know. I've heard it seems to suggest that suggested that they filmed it all together, kind of like they did the Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings thing,
where
yeah.
they just, hey, we got scene for movie 3 to film. Let's just film that
Right.
scene because we can right here, right now,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, and then kind of mesh it all together later. That's the impression I'm under, but I've also heard that that's not the case. That they're
Okay.
that it's already in production. It just isn't to the filming stage.
gotcha.
I don't know. There's a lot of nobody's confirmed anything,
Right.
and they may just be the studio may just be holding that close to their chest until they see how this does.
Right.
And by the way, it's already like a blockbuster in
That's
every
right.
other market, but like today is the day it releases in America and China.
That's really weird.
And those are the two. I don't get it
That's
either.
really weird.
It's been out for like 3 weeks, and everywhere else.
Yeah, I've seen some reviews pop up on YouTube from 3 weeks ago, and I'm like, I'm not looking at that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I've had to actively avoid any kind of.
I've tried to. Now there's one guy's channel, Quinn's Ideas, who I watch regularly, and he's just gaga for Dune. So I can't help but get a little tidbits here and there, but it's already a hit. And like I said, today is America and China. It's opening, and those are the two biggest movie
Two biggest
markets
in
the
the world.
world. So hopefully this is just going to be like a first real slam dunk.
I
that
don't
we've had in a
know that
while.
their marketing has been. I don't know what if you want to talk about this, but I don't feel like their marketing has been what it could have been. Personally, I don't know. It feels like there should have been a little bit more.
A little more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of those commercials on Twitch and YouTube now.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, maybe that's
And
maybe
that's
not,
more their target audience.
Yeah, I would agree.
But on the other hand, maybe they're relying on a lot of groundswell of
Right.
fans to kind of get other fans. I mean, I work with another guy who's never seen it. Now he's younger, so that's
Right.
not surprising. I think the first book came out in the 50s.
Oh, really?
Or 60s? I
Right.
don't know. Actually, you know what? I need to look that up. It's an older book series
Yeah.
now. But Clayton hasn't seen any of it. He was going to come tonight, but he had other plans.
Oh, gotcha.
I would have liked to get his perspective too, because he's not at all a sci-fi guy.
Oh, okay.
He goes. Honestly, I don't do sci. He doesn't do anything that can't be real.
Oh, gotcha.
So he doesn't like superhero movies. He doesn't like
Gotcha.
sci-fi. He doesn't like anything like that.
I have
He
no
goes.
such
However,
problems.
I've heard you talk about this movie, and I've heard you talk about Dune in general, and you kind of got me excited. And I did watch the trailer, and I go, you know what? That feels like it could be a good movie, regardless of the sci-fi stuff. Maybe that's just not.
Yeah, number
I just
one,
don't
I
get
hope-
into that part of it, but I can enjoy the rest of it. And so he wanted to come and see it.
Right. Number one, I do hope that it's well done, and I'm sure it will be. I think we talked the other day about just visual effects. Like those obviously are all going to be top notch.
Yeah, and I've already heard some really I have heard people say that the special effects are just stunning.
Yeah.
Like there might be a couple scenes that are a little wonky, but like the texture of the building that they're standing next to. That building is CGI, but you just think you could reach out and touch it.
Right.
It doesn't even faze you. So that's I'm glad to hear that. But it also sounds like the CGI is more in service to the story rather than being a spectacle.
Right.
Which I think this is the kind of movie where if they had made it a spectacle, it would have ruined it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that
It's
I think it's important
first.
they tell a good story.
Yeah, it's story first,
And
and then you do the CGI to support the scene, support the story, and make it work.
Well, they can always just, I don't want to speculate.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited and I'm expecting, I'm pretty optimistic. So.
I am too. I really haven't been excited for a movie like this in a while. So, all right. Well, like I said, I just wanted to kind of do a kind of before, and then we're going to do the after tomorrow.
Yeah, hopefully the after is
and do
praise.
do a quick what did you think? Are you
And I will be
disappointed?
totally honest.
Oh yeah, no, I would expect.
I'm not
less.
an apologist for films, so.
No. I say this on my channel. But I'm nobody's shill.
Right.
If I like your product, I will back it, and I will. But
Right.
if you hand me a pile, I'm not contractually obligated to support you. I don't work for Games Workshop.
Right.
So you're not gonna take me to court because
Yeah.
I said your product sucks. Oh, by the way, Games Workshop, your product sucks. What are you gonna do about it? So anyway, yeah. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here, and so this is Winter Mute out.
Alrighty.
Okay, so hey everybody, it is Winter Mute. Now again, I'm obviously not at the think tank. I'm here at Acropolis Games in Adrian, Michigan, with its proprietor Tim, and so that day that we did the first part of this, that evening we both went out and we watched Dune in the theater, and we were gonna come back the next day, and I was going to do them then, but just life got in the way. I got sick. I didn't want to get anybody else sick, so I waited till today to kind of come back and talk to him about it. So here's where we're at. So this is again the very first time you're watching Dune.
Yep.
What did you think?
I loved it personally. I've watched it a second time since at home on HBO Max. I wanted to watch it with subtitles. I have a really hard time hearing, so
I think that's fair. And you know what? One thing that I know sticks out in a lot of people's minds is the naming conventions in this book can be a little difficult to follow sometimes.
yeah. And you're just seeing it in text, and there were things I picked up on that I didn't know that I missed. So there's definitely a lot. Okay. Sorry, let me walk it back here. I'm very excited overall for what the future may hold. There's a lot of layers. There's a lot going on. And I think that if they handle it well, it could be one of the top 5 franchises ever, I think, personally. And the way the first movie kind of played out, I get that feeling that they'll handle it well. And you mentioned the director loved the material, and you can see that. You mentioned we talked before about Game of Thrones and how the world feels lived in. Like this universe definitely felt like you're taking a glimpse into something real.
Yeah.
There's like geopolitical things going on. There's political machinations behind the scenes. I love it. the effects were stunning.
Yes, they were. And I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to watch it on an IMAX.
Yeah, that's what you said. I think
tonight or tomorrow. I'm not sure. Whenever I end up free. So yeah, I just to watch it again on IMAX. I mean, I knew I was going to go watch it again in the theater without a doubt.
Right.
But now that a lot of people that have seen it said I am going back to a lot of reviewers that I've seen talk about it, and just people in general. I've said I can't wait to go back and watch that movie on an IMAX.
Yeah, it's.
I think that's a very reasonable thing to want and to do. Yeah.
The battle scenes and like just, they shoot a laser like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, right? Like you just you see a little bit of combat or whatever, and it's like sets a very good tone.
Yeah.
For what's to come. So. It would have benefited. I will say it would have benefited greatly from being like an HBO series. So if there's 8 books in the main story arc, right?
Roughly, I think, yeah.
So if there were 8, we're talking 8 seasons of 10 episodes each. Like that's because there's a lot going on. Like there's a ton of characters. Like,
and I will say this, and I'm going to go a little bit into kind of what I thought about it too, having read the books. Now I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Sure.
But I feel some of the points that I will make will not be spoiling it. They're just things they have not explained.
Right.
They did not explain, and I got a question. Is there anything about this world that you felt was missing?
I wouldn't say. I don't know. I could have a little bit of rose-colored glasses on because I enjoyed the film so much. So as I learn, I'm going to start reading the books very soon. So as I do that, some things will probably pop out to me and be like, oh, hey, this could have been done better. I can only imagine what scenes had to be deleted. Like what had to be
I
left
already
out.
know that there was one important scene, the banquet scene, which was deleted.
Okay.
You wouldn't have any frame of reference to that. But
Sure.
in the book, that's an important scene because certain characters kind of meet each other and talk to each other. And it kind of sets a tone.
Well, even when they travel to Arrakis, right? Like, there's clearly something missing in that part where they're like, hey, the Emperor tells him, hey, you're now, what is it, fiefdom? Is that what that is?
You were in charge of Arrakis.
You're in charge of Arrakis. And then they're like, okay, we're going. And then they're kind of there. So, like, I know there had to have been stuff from, just because it's a movie format, that you had, because you're going to, no matter how good the film is, you're going to lose people at 3 hours. You know what I mean? So, like, I was even, like, nodding off, because it was, like, close to 10 o'clock, and I'm an old man. So, I was in there, like, not because the film was bad. But, it was a long movie.
Sure, yeah. Me, I got done watching that 2.5 hours, and I want another hour and a half.
I agree.
I want another hour and a half.
I agree. Like, now, watching it at home, I'm like, come on, like, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Give me another.
They have said that they are going to do a spin-off series now called focusing on the Bene Gesserits.
Okay.
That is going to be on HBO Max. That is in the works. They do feel that they have the foundation that they're building a big enough foundation with Dune, that there's enough in this world to explore. And it's pretty clear in this movie that the Bene Gesserit are at the heart of a lot of what's going on, even if they don't explicitly
What is it?
state the Bene Gesserit. They're the order that Lady Jessica belongs to.
It's almost like a coven type thing. Almost like,
and there's an aspect that they did not explain in this movie is that the Bene. The Bene is kind of a word. So there's the Bene Teleoxu. There's the Bene Gesserit. There's now Mentats. I don't think are Bene Mentats, but they do show Mentats.
Okay, so there's multiple brotherhoods.
Yes,
okay.
And there's a very specific reason for that. Now, I'm not going to be spoiling anything by saying...
But there's more factions that we didn't see.
One thing they did not go into is... and what I'm looking for is something with... You noticed explicitly, there's no computers.
Yeah, now that was spoiled. That was spoiled for me before the film. So I didn't even think about that. But there is... Definitely, there's more of a...
Do you know why there's no computers?
I do. Okay. So... Kind of. So, like, there was a war, like, AI was, like, trying to destroy humans. So
the Overmind, yeah. Basically, at one point, humanity was enslaved by the Overmind. People fought back. Because thinking computers were outlawed, people started training themselves to become... To replace computers.
So there's a couple scenes where, like, the general guy, they ask him... the Duke asks him how long it must have taken him a while to get here, and he his eyes go back in his head. So
he's a mentat,
right? So they don't really tell you anything about it, but you can see something's going on.
I'm not getting that. I'm not getting anything in my headset from you.
Oh, I am. So it's just the volume on that.
Okay, cool. But anyway, so yeah, and that's what Dr. Yui is. That's why he's touching Paul when he's reading his life signs.
Gotcha.
The Bene Gesserit are went in a different path.
Now, is it magic or is it? There's some kind of magic, or what's magic in this universe. So it may be maybe science based or whatever.
It's science based.
Okay.
It's not magic. It's science based.
Right.
And I can say at one point they discovered spice, and that blew the lid off.
Right, and I know spice is a hallucinogenic.
Spice ramped up ramped up things to a different level.
It said that space travel is impossible without it, or interstellar travel.
So they didn't go into the history of the Mentats at all. They didn't explain what they were. They didn't explain. Now, the book, I don't think, mentions the Teleoxu at all. If I recall. The movies, I don't think, mention the Teleoxu at all.
Is that a prequel?
That's later. They become important in the later books.
Okay. So Paul's story arc, I've been told, is the original 8. Right?
No, there's more to it than that. Oh, no. Paul is book 1, book 2.
Okay.
And you cannot predict where this is going to go.
Sure.
I'm telling you right now.
Okay, good. I like that.
Because the books themselves, because this is 10,000 years in the future after the Butlerian Jihad. So human history is actually 20 to 30,000 years ago.
Okay.
Like we would be existing like this is actually and I'm estimating here, this is over 10,000 and more like 20,000 years in the future is my guess.
Okay, so now is this set in our universe?
It's set in our universe.
Okay, so Earth is a thing.
Earth is a thing.
Okay. So it would be our timeline. So like it's year 10,191 or whatever.
Right, but my understanding is that's from the beginning of the Butlerian Jihad.
Gotcha.
So all that precursor to that, the thousands of years that existed before that, have been erased to history.
Okay.
And it's been a while since I've read the book, so don't quote me on any of this. I have no problems if somebody corrects me in the comments below.
Sure.
Who's watched the series or is more up on it. But they didn't. So they didn't mention some of the other orders that exist. Now a lot of them have died off. They didn't explain Mentats. They didn't explain the Spacing Guild very deeply. Now some of that they might have decided we're going to explain this deeper in the second movie.
Sure.
So we didn't explain Mentats in the first movie. That was
it's tough because there's so much going on, right?
There was a decision not to explain Mentats because we know that something relevant is going to happen in the second book, which gives us an opportunity to digress.
And you're still making a movie for the. You got to sell the movie, so you got to at least think about the lowest common denominator, right? Mm-hmm. So when you throw too many factions and characters and moving parts,
and I will say this, and a lot of people, and I know I've watched a couple of reviews by people who said I went into this with no idea about Dune. Other than some common cultural references, kind of like what you had had, and they said. And I know people have said, real Dune fans have told me, man, this is almost an unfilmable movie. And several of them said, I don't know, man, they did a pretty good job because I feel I knew what was going on.
Right.
I understood what was going on. I understood who was who. Yeah, some of the naming was weird. Some of the factions took a little bit to get a hold of. He goes, but multiple people said no. I could get engrossed in this, and it was not too.
But we've had Game of Thrones now, so Game of Thrones kind of it's a very similar thing.
Yeah,
it's you're set on one planet. You're not
sure.
but the kingdoms they're just different planets.
You can make it. People have realized you don't have to dumb it down for the audience.
No, and when you do, it makes it worse.
Yes, you should.
It makes because if people don't, there's enough spectacle in the film to keep. You're low, you're low energy fan, or you're just a generic off the street person.
Yeah,
there's enough.
Somebody who isn't even into science fiction can kind of watch this and go, "Oh, you know what? That was a good damn movie."
There's pretty visuals. There's a clear. I will say, it's clearly set up for a part two. It says part one at the beginning, so it's not a surprise. But when the movie ends, I'm assuming you said it was two. The book one is 2 movies.
Yes.
Okay. And you can clearly tell, this is the first act, right? Yeah. So, and then when the next movie picks up, it'll be.
I think the book was basically divided into 3 acts or 3 portions, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so I'm curious. When I read it, I'll just find out where.
So the book, I do know this. The book, I think, flows very differently than the movies. Just because,
and that's.
But again, it's been so long.
It's just such a different medium, too, right? Like you can spend 10 pages telling you what spice is, how it's found, and
it is fun to listen to some people speculate about why is the Baron like that, or why is this situation like that, and why is this like that. It's like I know because I've read the prequels.
Right.
I know why the Baron is physically the way he is.
Right.
Because they tell you in the prequels, but you don't need to read the prequels to understand.
Oh,
what
they
his
don't get to it in the original series, huh?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, there are aspects about the Baron's past that they will get into,
sure.
and about some of the other characters' pasts that they will get into. There's a major character that they haven't even introduced yet.
The Emperor, right?
Well, no, not even the Emperor. They've at least said his name.
Oh, gotcha.
And there's another member of House Harkonnen that they haven't even introduced yet.
Really? Okay.
That, at least in the movies, plays a big role. And like I said, it's been a while since I've read the book.
I'm probably going to go back and watch the 80s other movies.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? And I said this before. I think the David Lynch movie, aesthetically, it's a really cool movie to watch. And when you're like me, 10 years old, and this is one of the first exposures to epic science fiction, it's awesome. Now I can watch it and realize what the problems are.
Sure.
But aesthetically, it was an awesome movie. And I like it because of that. It actually holds a special place in my heart. And the sci-fi versions, the sci-fi channel, Dune and then Children of Dune miniseries, were very competently handled. They fell a little flat, but at the end of the day, they were very good, noteworthy efforts by the people who did it.
Right.
And I liked them both for various reasons. This, though, I think is going to end up being the crowning achievement.
Yeah,
this is going to overshadow all previous attempts.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this spawns into a big. I want this I really want this thing to like surpass Game of Thrones in cultural importance, and it might not because
in terms of influence, it already has.
Sure,
because of
but we don't. It's
so
subliminal.
Yeah.
Right. So like I'm watching the first thing when they land and ask how far they've gone, and the dude's eyes go back, and like that's an astropath in 40K. Like you can clearly see.
40K has taken a lot.
Yeah,
and
you can. It's very clear.
Yeah, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's I'm sure
imitation's the purest form of flattery. Right?
Desert planets have always kind of, I think, because of Dune, has always had this kind of mystical, magical feel to them.
Right.
I'm sure that had some influence on Lucas, whether he realized.
Oh, it has to have.
And that's okay.
Tatooine's
There's
way
nothing
overdone.
wrong with that. It's more. There's something wrong when you don't acknowledge it.
Right.
Oh no, I came up with this completely originally. It's all on my own. I'm the progenitor of this concept. Okay, stop. Nobody's really going to believe you.
Yeah, 65. I think the first Dune book came out.
Yeah, 65. I think it was.
Yep, I looked that up the other after watching the movie. So no, man, I really liked it. I would honestly give it a solid 9. Mm-hmm. And that may go up or down a little bit based on when I read the books. You know what I mean? My grade will probably change based on how well they handled the transition. But
and I honestly can only talk about the books in generalities because it has been so long since I've read them. Read the first book. The sequel books I remember reading, and I do remember this. I read. I actually started with Dune Messiah, then I think it's Dune Messiah, then Children of Dune, then God Emperor of Dune, and then so on and so forth. And I remember the books 2 and 3, I kind of went, okay, these aren't great. But then I read book 4 at God Emperor and went, oh, this is worth it. God Emperor just blew.
Are they all like massive tomes? I know the first book's 400 and some pages. Like 407 or something from what I...
No, I don't think they're that massive.
Okay.
No, I think they're basically regular trade paperback, but they are very densely written.
Okay.
A lot happens...
I'm okay with a reread, and I'm okay with a rewatch. So, I think we talked about
Dune is one of those books that people do generally, and I'm not somebody who goes back and rereads books very often. There's only a handful of books I've ever done that with that I think are worth it. Dune is worth it. I just haven't gotten around to it.
I'm going to get the audiobook, so I can...
Yeah, me too.
Then when I do that, I'm kind of all day consuming the book. You know what I mean? So it's a little different. Like when you got to read, you got to carve out some time. Typically to sit down. Yes.
And you can listen in the shower. That's why I'm a fan of audiobooks now too.
Love them.
I have a 20-minute drive to work every morning. Well, 20 minutes of audiobook every morning.
Yeah.
Eventually a couple of weeks, you're gonna knock out another book here and there, and it's probably worth going back and rereading. For me, and rereading all the Dune books. Honestly,
I'm really upset now watching it that they didn't film 1 and 2 together. You know what I mean? I would have liked to. Because I'd like to have another part next year. Give me next October, but now we're 3 years away at the minimum.
Now, I know they've already greenlit part 2.
I did hear that because it's done so
My guess is the skeleton infrastructure is still there.
Sure.
And my guess is Denis Villeneuve, I think is how it's pronounced, could probably just slide right back in.
Sure.
Take a break, bask in the limelight, do the marketing circuit, and then get right back into it. I can't imagine any of the people who have already signed up aren't going to be ready to go for the sequel anyway.
Yeah, I mean...
My guess is that was the understanding going into it. Barring some scheduling conflict, everybody knew that, look, guys, we're really aiming for at least two movies here. Oh, yeah, no, we understand that. I mean, I can't imagine... And this is the first major blockbuster we've had in a while.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tone setter, right?
This could be this could be a career maker for secondary actors and whatnot.
Oh, for sure.
There were some secondary performances that I thought were great. I can't remember the actors, the character's name. The guy that Paul has to fight to the death.
Yeah,
Jamis.
Yep.
I thought his performance was great. And another aspect that I really thought they handled great in this movie was the premonitions.
Yeah.
And I don't know if not everybody picked up on this, but those because, when the Reverend Mother asked Paul, do you dream of things and then those things come to pass just as you dreamed them? He said, not exactly. Which isn't the answer I was expecting. I was expecting him to just say yes. But he doesn't see them as there will happen. He sees what could happen.
Right.
And he's actually learning what could happen.
Right. And they do show a lot of
how
variation.
things are actually playing out. Because in one of those premonitions, he sees Jamis as being a friend who has learned, who is teaching him.
guiding
I
him.
will teach you our ways. And he sees this is a possible future. So he is in some ways learning from Jamis. Now I do know that there's a speech he gives about his fight with Jamis that will make more sense
later on, like in the second
because
movie.
they've shown the way he can see what could happen.
What I will say,
And he's
what's
seeing
not
a
clear is
spectrum
when
of
he receives
possibilities.
these.
What's that?
So what's not clear is when he receives these visions, right? So they do tell you it's in a dream, but a lot of times they show you stuff when he's awake.
That's because I think it's his exposure to spice. He's being so heavily. That's why he
that
went
makes
into
sense.
that trance.
Well, there is a vision, and I don't know how spoiler heavy we want to avoid here, but
Mm-hmm.
like spoiler, pause it for a second. One of his visions, he's in a craft over
Caladan.
Caladan, right?
What I'm pretty sure is Caladan.
It certainly looks like
Yeah.
it. When he's talking about like how a holy war has erupted in his father's name, or at least for the worship of his father's skull, I think is what or the altar of his father's skull, something like that. But he's in it with Zendaya's character, looking down over Caladan, presumably, when his eyes are blue.
Yes.
And the blue eyes comes from exposure to spice.
Yes.
And I think they tell you that in the movie.
Yeah, it's basically because the Fremen live amongst spice everywhere.
And that's where they get their blue eyes.
They just get these blue
Yeah.
eyes. If you live off world and you just take spice as a daily pill to extend your health and life, and or to hone your Bene Gesserit skills or whatever it is, you're not going to get the blue within blue. You
Okay.
have to be. It has to become part of your body.
Gotcha.
And that's why the Fremen have the blue within blue eyes.
Because they live amongst
They
it.
live
all the
in
time.
the only place in the universe where spice is even
Right.
found. Is there on
Okay,
Arrakis.
yeah, I didn't know that, but I mean, it makes sense that that's why this place is so important.
Yes, it is literally the only place, and I don't know whether they go into it here. There have obviously been attempts to move spice production elsewhere, but the sandworms never survive.
Oh, now see, I don't know if they said that. It came
No,
from
they
the
say.
same-
I know they didn't say that, but I mean, trust me. As advanced as the Imperium is here, trust me, they would love to have more than one production point for spice,
Right.
But they just can't. It can't be
Right.
done. It's the
There's
ecology
something
of
about
that
the planet.
which is interesting because I know that Frank Herbert came up with the idea for Dune when he was visiting and researching the life cycle and the ecology of the dunes in Oregon.
Okay.
Because you don't think of Oregon as being part of Oregon is actually desert.
Right.
On the because I used to live in Washington State, and as soon as you get to this side of the, as soon as you get to the west side of the mountains out there, it's lush, evergreen, and
Right.
constantly red. You get to the other side, man, it's desert.
Really?
Not like arid, Libyan type desert.
Sure.
But the climate changes dramatically
when you get on the other side of the
mountains.
mountains. That's pretty
And
interesting.
Oregon actually has some actual desert dunes on the
Okay.
other side. On the
That's
east side of
interesting.
Oregon.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
but that's where he actually first had that spark, that idea for Dune, was learning about the life cycle of, and I've said this before. This is one of the great things about the best books, especially the best science fiction books, is they don't talk about just one topic.
Right.
They're not monotone.
Right.
They talk, especially Frank Herbert and getting his name. Arthur C. Clarke does this too, especially in his
Gotcha.
later books. Spaceship Troopers, Starship Troopers. You know what I'm talking about?
I know. I can't think of the name.
I
as soon
feel
as
like-
you say it,
I feel like an idiot for not being able to say his name because I love his
I-
work. But anyway, you read his books, right? And they are about he has like 3 or 4 main things that the book is about.
Right.
But there's like 10 other topics he's going to delve into.
Yeah.
Because they're relevant.
Well, there's a world.
And
The whole
it's a
world
world.
is-
It's a fully fleshed
Yeah.
out world. And Dune is like that. He said, I was researching the life cycle and the ecology of these dunes, but I also wanted to explore what a world would look like if it was what a futuristic society would look like if it was addicted to a drug. That's a core concept. Ecology is a core concept. Faith is a core concept. Manipulation by outside powers is a core concept. Messianic imagery is a core concept. The savior is a concept.
Right.
Should you or should it's not a white savior book.
Right.
A lot of people love to say, "Oh, it's a white savior," because it's like, no, you need to reread that book,
Right.
because you clearly missed something. Okay, but the messianic and the good and bad of a messianic figure coming
Right.
into your society's life. These are all core themes of the book, and they can all be explored parallel with each other. It's not a one-note book.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I really like Dune and Herbert and some of the other great science fiction books, is they don't just tackle one topic. They may have one core topic, but they're gonna wind it all together, because that's important. That's life.
Well,
is more complex
there's
than
multiple. That's life, right? There's
Yeah.
there's a lot of things going on. So, yeah, I'd give the movie 9 out of 10. I'm very excited for the universe.
I'm gonna do 9.5 out of 10. I would. Now the only reason I am not gonna because there are some aspects of it that I thought could have been of the greater world that could have been dropped here and there, that I think would have at least, because sometimes it's jarring when suddenly a brand new concept is introduced
Sure.
that they hadn't touched upon. Now, if they go into what the mentats are, well, they've already shown you mentats.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't explain them. Okay, no biggie. They've hinted at the Spacing Guild. They even had a hint at the Teleoxu with that spider-like creature.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of little, a lot of things you're like, what the hell am I
So
looking
at least
at?
the groundwork is being laid. But what I don't like is some concepts that, okay, well, we're going to only explore that in the second book, but we're not going to give you any wind-up to it.
Right.
Okay, well, sometimes that makes sense. Sometimes you have to kind of do it that way. Other times you just drop a couple hints to show things moving in that direction.
They're
it
so
doesn't come as
constrained by that time-
okay, well, wow,
runtime.
that felt weird, like
Yeah.
a non sequitur. It didn't flow correctly.
They're so constrained by that runtime. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because like,
I know there's going to be a 4-hour cut of this.
I would watch it. I
can't wait. I want it to get re-released in theaters, and I will go watch that.
That would be great. Give us a little intermission.
Hey, older movies used to have intermission.
I know it.
I was watching a couple months ago. I rewatched Lawrence of Arabia. It has
Oh,
an
wow.
intermission built into the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody does that anymore.
I don't think it would be a terrible thing, but like, again, we're very, society's changed a lot, right? So like,
Yeah,
movies they're different now than they were.
yeah, and that's
Good
okay.
and bad. Good and bad.
So anyway, I just, somebody who didn't know Dune, I wanted to do kind of just a discussion with him about what he was expecting going into it. Let's, maybe, and we should do another set of these videos when the sequel comes out.
I'm all for it.
And I don't know.
I will know considerably more by the time the sequel.
You're not going to wait for the sequel to read
Not
the
at
Dune
all.
books.
No,
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I will.
But it'd still be interesting to see, because you will probably have read the books before I get the chance to reread them. So maybe you can re-educate me on some of the aspects that were different and whatnot. So
If
I'm cool
it's
with that.
3 years from now, which I can't imagine it'd be any sooner than that.
I don't think I would be shocked if it is.
Yeah. So
I would be shocked. I think if they wait more than 2 years, that'll kind of, they'll lose a lot of steam.
to start it or to
finish
release it?
To release it.
You think they could put it out in 2023?
I think they could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I already think
There's
the
a lot of
framework is
CGI.
there. I
There's
already
a-
think the framework is there.
Right.
I think they've got a lot of the CGI kind of worked out already.
Mm-hmm.
I know they did a good job. I think a lot of it is just filming the scenes. Those sets are probably still out there.
Oh, I'm sure they had to have future.
So it's just a matter of scheduling the actors, and it's already been greenlit. So I suspect that the director already had everything kind of lined up, ready
Right.
to roll. I would hope.
Yeah,
I would hope.
Well, we had a Star Wars trilogy that didn't have a blueprint for all 3 movies. So, although this guy if he loves the material,
Yeah, no, this guy loves the material, so I think he's already got it all at the very least mapped out in his head, so that it's just a matter of pen to paper, and it can be like
Yeah.
done. We're filming our scenes. Pre-production will be 8 months, and we'll have it out by 2023. I think that's possible.
if we got it in 2023, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah.
Take a year off. I mean, I would agree. I agree that the more we get sooner, the better.
Yeah.
For
Now I don't know what the plans are with the Sisterhood series, and whether they're going to try to use that to wet people's whistle. I don't know where that is within production, so it'll be interesting to see. I don't follow a lot of this stuff religiously.
Sure.
Like Quinn's Ideas is a YouTube channel I watch a lot, and he is a huge Dune fan.
Okay.
And he's the one that when I want to know stuff like that, I will go watch his.
I got you.
His videos.
Well, I'm getting ready to ramp up and be a pretty big Dune fan, so
Yeah.
I'm into. We may have cut out.
Oh no.
No, we're
oh,
good.
okay. I think. All right. I think
Oh,
we're
that
okay.
was just the screen. Okay.
But anyway, so okay, we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. This is Winter Mute Out, and again, this is Tim at Acropolis Games in Adrian, Michigan. Come check it out if you ever find yourself in the area.
Please do. See ya.